Today in chapel, we're going to start out with a table talk with two of my friends that I'm really excited for you to hear from. So I'm going to bring up the Davenports, Aiden and Brinson. Let's welcome them up. Hey guys. So you may recognize them from around campus, and I want to point out that the video we got to see at last table talk was made by Brinson. So not only is he a regular Harding student, he is a filmmaker, and so it's really neat to have him up here today. I'm excited to get to talk with you guys. So just a little reminder of what we're doing here at Table Talk. It's a time where I get to interview some people from around campus who I really think are contributing to what makes Harding great, whether we know it or not. So today, we get to talk with two of them. So I kind of want to start out with the big picture. I know you guys have kind of grown up, maybe not exactly from here. So can you tell us where you're from and kind of how you got here?
Yeah. Well, our life is kind of conveniently split up into like 3 sections. So of all places, we were born in Louisiana. We have like no ties to Louisiana anymore, but we kind of spent the first part of our life in America, and then when we were around 10 or 11 years old, our parents were going through the Sermon on the Mount with some friends, and they felt like the American dream just wasn't it. So we ended up moving to China. I turned 11 on the plane ride to China. And the easy way to remember it is we spent our middle school years in China, and then afterwards our high school years were in East Africa and Rwanda. And you can take the second part.
Yeah, and then we were in Rwanda when COVID hit, and we were sitting down eating dinner, and we got a call from the U.S. Embassy that said, hey, you guys need to be gone in like 10 hours, or you have to stay through like all of COVID. And we needed to get to college, and we needed to like go to America and start our like lives. And so we had to pack up our whole house in like 10 hours overnight and fly out. Couldn't say goodbye to anybody. Came to America, no house, no friends, no church, no nothing, and just kind of start over.
Wow, and here you are.
Here we are.
And so, like, to get to Harding, like, Harding wasn't really my top choice. You know, we've been chasing filmmaking for a long time, and then I've kind of pushed more into that as I've grown up. But, like, Pepperdine was kind of at the top of my choice, being close to LA. But then I came to Harding, and I will remember, like, as clear as day. So I walked into Gary Jackson's office. I'm not sure if he's here this morning, but we got to speak Mandarin together, and it was like, there he is. It was like a touch of home, and I hadn't been able to speak Mandarin in a long time, and it was so meaningful for me. And I walked to Alan Howell's office, and he had spent 15 years in Mozambique in Africa, and I saw the decor on his walls, and we told a few stories. I just thought, okay, this is it. Like, if I can spend 4 years learning under people like this who get me as a person, this is it. So I'll always remember that.
Thank you for sharing that. So I'm assuming that your parents didn't just have like one parenting technique with living in so many different cultures. How did those cultures kind of interact with how you were raised?
They definitely raised us to be a lot more independent, I think. Like, they would rather us make our own mistakes than try to control us. They definitely like helped bring out our creativity and just like strangeness. Like, I can remember when I was a kid, I was like 9 years old, and I watched Signs by M. Night Shyamalan, which is scary, especially for a 9-year-old. And then I just couldn't sleep in my bed because it was so scary just to see my room. So I put like 3 cardboard boxes together and taped them, and then I slept in that like a coffin, just laying down. So after I did that, I slept in there for 3 years in a box on the floor. And my parents were like, you know, if that's what you want to do, like, you can do that. Even though I was in middle school, and they didn't like try to hinder me or stop my creativity or habits. That stopped now that I came to Harding.
So you don't sleep in a box anymore?
I don't sleep in a box, no.
Okay, that's great.
I would say also, like, they really encouraged our imaginations to just bloom and flourish. So, like, when we were little, they would lock us outside for like 4 to 5 hours with nothing. And it was just like, figure it out. And we had a blast. Like, we grew in our relationship. Our imaginations were just kind of forced to grow. And so we'd come up with the most stupid, like, weird, random things. So, like, you know those little basketball goals that have like water filled in on the back, so it's like the weight that holds it down? We would have one brother stand on the water part with a friend, and the other brother would climb up to the top of the basketball goal and like hang on for dear life, and the friends would jump off, and the goal would just go and fall, and you try to survive the landing. And like, that's what we did for fun. And so our imaginations just had to like be our companions and grow with time.
Well, I think it's safe to say you guys still have the creative side and the little bit
you.
questionable side. Do you guys remember the couch burning? Do you guys remember that? That's this guy. That's this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we brought a couch to Armstrong dorm freshman year, and then we figured out we weren't allowed to. So we burned it and bought a bunch of other couches and made an event out of it. And then we did it again the next year, but I didn't choose my spot well because I wasn't allowed to burn there, and I got in trouble. But I've learned my lesson, and we've moved on from that.
Hey, I think it's an awesome story. So when you're thinking about big ideas like that, I think a thing that holds lots of people back is the idea of risk. Do you think about like risk before you do something, or what makes it worth it? What makes it worth it when you see it is risky?
I'd say I'd rather die when I'm 50 years old, having lived a full, complete life and having done everything I wanted to do, than die when I'm 80 thinking, wow, I really just wasted the potential and I didn't take risks. Like if there's a tall tree, you could say, oh, I don't want to climb that because I could fall and get hurt. But then you won't see the view from on top. Well, that was off the dome. That was actually kind of nice. Yeah.
Nice. That was pretty good. Thank you. Okay.
I also think failure is worth risking on, because every opportunity we take, every new chance that we try something new is an opportunity to fail. And if we reframe failure as a friend, I mean, we've failed in so many things that we've started, like all these little
Him more
tiny...
than me.
Do what?
Him more than me.
Yeah. All these tiny little businesses or ideas that have just flopped. But each opportunity to fail, to me, may not open a door that you want to be opened, but it could be the door that needed to open a door 6 doors later from now. And so trying new things, I think failure is worth risking on. And so go try it. I think there's a line of poetry I really love. It says, every so often, my heart is inclined to shed a longing, regretful tear for the life unlived. And we all have unlived lives. The life where we restored relationship with a friend or tried a new business entrepreneurship thing. And when we have the courage to live those kind of unlived lives, we get the opportunity to fail, and failure can really grow us.
So how does that play into your filmmaking? Because I know being a creative, being an artist, you're kind of accepting a risk that you're going to put something out there in the world and people aren't going to respond well, or they're going to be haters. There just always are. So how do you believe that being a creative is worth it in light of those things?
I think you really have to be thoughtful about your inspiration as a creative and to take that seriously. And so for me, I pray a whole lot, and a lot of my ideas come about through prayer. But also I would encourage any creative and really any filmmaker here, take every opportunity, because the chain of events, kind of like what I said earlier, may not open a big door now, but opens a little door where you have a little conversation with someone that then leads to the next door. And so having the courage to create and risk on creation and failure is important, because it could open doors in the future.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for sharing all that. We have a lot to learn from your riskness? I don't know if that's a word. But something I want to go back to is growing up in China and then in Africa. Can you share any insight about things you saw about Christianity in different countries that kind of made you reflect on the American church and maybe some things you think we're missing?
I think when we were in China, we were involved with the underground church a bit, and just seeing their devotion to Christ, even with such massive persecution, was so inspiring to us, and seeing the community they had. They would meet in a building that was under construction, so that the sounds of the jackhammers and stuff would hide their singing, which was really cool just there. And one of them even said I hope I get arrested for Christ so I can have a hardship. So coming here, certainly going to a church and sitting in a pew and listening and then going back home, it just feels there wasn't as much of a community. And in Rwanda, services can be 6 to 10 hours long or all day, just singing and dancing all day, which is really cool. There's a church that I started going to, Living Way, where you sit at a table and talk to people, and I really like that just because it's community, and that's, I feel is the best way that we can reach the early church that China and Rwanda have.
And I think each culture kind of has a different speed, and the West is kind of running at a breakneck speed where we're all so busy. So going to other cultures, I'm thinking especially of Rwanda, that was so slow, and in the best way, like people just spent time with each other and had long conversations. And when you do that, it opens up more space for listening. And I think it's hard to listen when you're running at breakneck speed in a busy culture. And so incorporating different spiritual disciplines that we've kind of seen along the way in different cultures has been huge. Like, the biggest spiritual discipline that I would say I could recommend to like anyone that I have the confidence, I think, to say would change anyone's life that tried it, is just creating space for like 5 minutes each day to just listen and ask God through the Holy Spirit, like, what would you have me know today? What would you have me say today? Or what would you have me do today? And I've tried that for, I don't know, maybe a year or so, and it really has like completely changed my life, because God will bring just random people to mind or conversations or a little task. And I have my own little Brinson plans for the day, and I have my little Google Calendar set out, but for some reason when the creator of the universe says like, hey, this is what you should pay attention to today, that's super important.
Well, thank you guys for sharing. I think it's neat that, we can't always go live in China or Rwanda for a little bit, but when we have conversations with people who have had these different stories and these different lives, we get to learn from that. So one of the last questions I have is, what is something that you admire about your brother? Can you think of anything?
Do you want me to go first? I admire his intentionality and how able he is to be present. I mean, you've just heard him spit poetry and say whimsical, philosophical things, and he's just a very wise fella. I remember one time I tried to play pickleball with him or racquetball. It was something like that. It's something not that important, and he was like, "Sorry, I'm busy," and I'm like, "There's nothing more important than pickleball." And he was like, "Well, 2 weeks ago, I realized I was busy, and so I scheduled to go on a walk right now, and so I can't because I need to go on a walk and have time for myself." And I was like, at first I was like, I want to just play pickleball, but now I've realized setting aside time for the important things, and not, friends are great and social life is great, but also taking time for what's important, yourself, taking time to stop and listen. He's just really good at that.
And then he beat me at pickleball. Adding. One thing I admire about Aiden is he is totally unafraid to try anything in front of people, pretty much no matter what they think of him. And I'm on the Enneagram before Wing 3, so I can be pretty image conscious, and this guy really balances me out a ton. It can be to his detriment sometimes, I think. Rwanda's a beautiful land, but we have one really sore thing missing: Chick-fil-A. There's no Chick-fil-A in Rwanda. And one time this embassy of Chick-fil-A leaders came to Rwanda to see if they could cut a deal with the government to have a Chick-fil-A. And so they brought in the young leaders of Rwanda, and Aiden was there at the meeting. And this is just a story about he doesn't care about what people think about him. And so here's this embassy of very important Chick-fil-A people and all the young leaders of Rwanda. And they get up and they're like, "Hey, does anyone want to share what books have you been reading recently?" And Aiden stands up very calmly and says, "I've been reading Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler."
I didn't know you were going to tell that. Because he is a leader who led people to do awful things, but he led millions of people to change their...
But it's how do you respond to that? Does he get the free Chick-fil-A sandwich for that response? Or I don't know. So it can be sometimes to his detriment, but he really doesn't care what people think, and I think that can be a great blessing.
Well, it has been a treat to talk with you guys. I think I could sit here for hours, but we're going to have to do this again some other time. I still can't believe you said that. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Please don't expel me, please.
Okay, well, now it's time to sing. So, Ty, would you come on up? And thank you guys so much for listening. Yay.